Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of Bull and Fox here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. It is the final Bull and Fox and the final Bullpen of 2024. We'll be back together in 2025. And a lot to get to today as the Browns lose yet again. We're brought to you, as always, by Bet Rivers. If you're not using the Bet Rivers app, what are you doing? Check out betrivers.com or the Bet Rivers app. If you have something to say, a question or comment, put it in the chat on YouTube, and we will respond to it. Dustin, how are you? Down the stretch here with
Adam,
Christmas right around the corner.
doing great, man. Excited for the holidays. They've really crept up on us rather quickly here because I feel like it was Thanksgiving 2 seconds ago, and then all of a sudden it's like wham bam,
Yeah.
Christmas, then New Year's, and because there's been so much football, more so this year than there's been in the past, especially with the college football playoffs this past weekend. I don't know. It feels like it's already here. Did you feel like watching the games over the weekend, the CFP? To me, it felt like it was like New Year's Day already because
Yeah.
the games that matter in the past were not until like New Year's Eve, and then of course the following Monday for the
Right.
Natty. But it's bizarre that we're here and there's still so much football, by the way, left to be played.
Yeah. The holiday season, it feels like the holiday season is the Saturday before Christmas through the Sunday after New Year's now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Yeah.
2 weeks, basically. And like a lot of business is on hold in the real world, whatever. But in the sports world, when I was a kid, and even really, I would say until 10 years ago, yeah, you had the NFL and you had a sprinkling of college games, but it felt like, in a way, a lot of sports was on hold this time of year. I feel like there'd be, on Christmas or New Year's, there'd be not a lot of new content. There'd be teams, radio programs be playing best of and all that stuff. And now you can always get fresh content all the time, which is really nice. But and this weekend was crazy, but all the games were blowouts in the college football, right, including Ohio State, and obviously the Browns Bengals game was a blowout too. You see the final score. Let's talk about this for a minute before we get to the Browns. You know what? When the game's over, do you feel good about Ohio State, or do you say, "Man, where was this team against Michigan?" And what was your first reaction when the game was over, or while you were watching it?
I think it's fair to say that a lot of those emotions you just mentioned kind of went through my mind.
Yeah,
I didn't know uh what's the best way to put it? Like I wasn't like, oh, it sucks that this didn't happen against Michigan. I was just like, you know what? Honestly, in my mind, I said this team can beat anybody except Michigan, and
yeah,
and that's so crazy to say,
it is.
but it has. I don't think it has a gosh darn thing to do with the players in the uniforms. I think it has to do with the uniforms. And when this coaching staff and these players play those dudes and they come down here with those blue helmets with the yellow thong on top, you know, it for some reason there's a mental block or whatever.
Yeah,
It's a tougher matchup. It's like, okay, all of a sudden the horseshoe's filled with this Tennessee orange and checkered colored, outfits and all this stuff. And these teams, the SEC's coming to town, baby. Got their ass kicked.
yeah.
Got their doors blown off.
Oh
Like
yeah.
Chip Kelly's like, shit, man. Let's just blow the top off these guys. Like, let's take shots down the field. Will Howard looking sharp out there. My God, it's like you said, where was this against Michigan?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I don't think it has anything to do with what's underneath those jerseys and the skill. We're so much better than Michigan
well,
talent
that's on
wise.
coaching. I mean, that's on coaching.
Of course, it's on
Yeah.
coaching. Of course, it's on coaching.
And Ohio State, by the way, you go to Bet Rivers. I'll bring it up right now. Ohio State is a 2.5-point favorite over Oregon. It's a neutral field. I know it's
Not
West Coast.
surprised. I mean, it was like a 2-point or 3-point spread when they were at their place.
Right.
In
Yeah.
September.
Yeah. My only beef, and I don't care that there were blowouts. I like 12 teams. I actually think it's a good number. I don't want them to go to 16. My only beef is the seeding, and the seeding doesn't make sense. And now you have, like the fact that Oregon has to play Ohio State while Texas and Penn State have to play Arizona State and Boise State is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, the way that thing
is.
kind of played out with the seeding was not fair. Certainly not fair for the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. They have to play Ohio State in this round, but it is what it is. All right, as you see, of course, the game is on New Year's Day at 5 p.m. Eastern. Let's switch to the NFL, where I was doing my post game live yesterday, and a couple of fans said to me, "How come you're not that angry? You usually get angry after games." And I'm like, "What am I going to get angry about at this point?"
It was an exhibition on Sunday.
I expected the Bengals to win the game handily, and they won the game handily. It wasn't like I thought the Browns were going to win. So what am I going to get aggravated about?
I didn't think the Browns were going to win the game. No. They went into the game as a 10-point underdog. Kind of thought it would be an ass whooping. The Browns were, I guess, a little more competitive than you thought. But still, the turnovers at inopportune times continue to be a killer. Dorian Thompson-Robinson didn't do much of anything that impressed me. It was just kind of a blah game. The one thing I do remember is that Dustin Hopkins missed a PAT.
And how about Cade York hitting a 59-yard field goal?
Of course.
All right. Isn't that so Browns? And, you could say, the defense did a good job in the second half, but they gave them 17 points in the first half, so I can't give them too much credit. How about that play by Burrow where he's like parallel to the ground and throws that touchdown to Higgins?
He's a freak, man.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And that's the Browns are in such bad shape, and you got to look at this division and you say, okay, well, the Bengals and Ravens have two of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. And the Steelers, they don't have a great quarterback, but they have a great coach, and they're always competitive. So it's just not only the Browns in terrible shape, but the other 3 teams have these pillars that you can hang your hat on. And obviously the Bengals are not having a great season, but they're obviously way better than the Browns. It felt like the Browns with Kevin Stefanski had been moving into the conversation with the other teams in this division. And now it feels like they're a miles behind all the other 3 teams in this division.
What has to happen, Adam, for the Bengals to have a chance to squeak in?
So they have to win their last 2, obviously. They're playing Denver and then Pittsburgh, the last 2 games. They need the Broncos to lose to the Chiefs the last week of the season. Although if the Chiefs win this week, then they'll have nothing to play for. And then they need Indianapolis and Miami to lose one of their final 2 games. Doesn't matter which one, although I believe they're both playing pretty bad teams. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think the Bengals have a decent chance of winning out, but I just don't think they're going to get the other things. I'm not sure. Even though Indy and Miami aren't great teams, I can't see. I don't know. We'll see. So essentially they need 3 games to go their way besides their own 2 wins. There's 3 games they don't control. If they had one more win right now, it'd be a different story. But they blew some games early. What are you going to do?
And did they beat the Ravens on that long field goal, or the Ravens beat them? I forget.
The Ravens won the game.
That the Ravens
they scored.
That was yeah.
If you here, let me give you something crazy here. This is a crazy stat. I'll bring it up real quick. Joe Burrow, really Jamar Chase too, but I'll bring up Burrow. His numbers against the Ravens. Now remember, the Ravens won both games. Ravens 2-0 against the Bengals this year. And Burrow against Baltimore in the 2 games was 60. He completed 64 of 94 passes. So about 2/3, not an amazing completion percentage. But in those 2 games, he threw 10 touchdowns and 2 picks. 10 touchdowns, 2 picks. And the yardage was 820 yards. 10 touchdowns, 2 picks, 820 yards, and they lost both games. How is that possible?
I don't know, because stats lie.
Yeah. Well, no, he played great, but their defense sucks.
Yeah.
That shows you just how bad the Browns offense is. Because the Bengals offense actually looked like a good offense, or at least an adequate offense yesterday. Or defense, against you mentioned DTR. Like, now, to be fair to him, he's thrown less than 200 NFL passes. So it's not completely fair to write him off. But I didn't see anything in him that made me think he's an NFL player. Did you? Or at least an NFL starter?
Player, an NFL player, sure. A starter, no.
Yeah. I mean, every completion was pretty much within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Kind of like Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Well, DTR in his 180, 190 passes that he's thrown in the NFL, 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions. I thought the only time he looked good was running the ball. That's the only time he looked confident. Plus, he's so slight. Like, I don't even think he's going to get through these next 2 games without getting hurt.
Probably not.
You know?
But in the end, what happens? I mean, you play Jameis. Jameis would have given you a better chance to win that game.
Sure. Although his shoulder must be hurting, I guess, if he's the third quarterback.
Maybe so.
Who knows? Let's talk about Myles Garrett's comments a little bit. On Friday, Mary Kay was asking him about, he had said he wanted to stay at Brown, and then he said, hey, I don't want to be in a rebuild. And he didn't specifically say I want to be traded, but I can't blame him. If you're Myles Garrett, you're one of the best defensive player in the league, and you're 28, 29, whatever he is. I mean, I don't want to sit through a rebuild.
No, I don't. When did all of a sudden, by the way, Myles Garrett become so confident? Not confident, but start to talk the way he's talking. Like the way he talked after the Steelers game about Watt and about how great he is and all these things.
Right.
And it just seems like, I don't know.
I think the Watt thing, though, was personal because when he won Defensive Player of the Year, both JJ and TJ were yapping on Twitter. So I get that part of it. Like, they were JJ saying, like, oh, my brother should have won, and like, that's lame. Don't try to steal the guy's spotlight.
Yeah. No, I guess I hear you. I don't know. I like when, me, man. I prefer when guys are more humble. For whatever
he's definitely
reason.
not humble. There's no. That's true.
No, far from it. But
yeah.
And look, I can't blame him for wanting to be on a better team. Do you think he could have went about it differently?
I really don't have a problem with it. I get what you're saying, but he was asked a question. He didn't say, well, they better get better or I'm asking for a trade. I mean, he wasn't that demanding, but listen, he bought a minority ownership in the Cavs. Clearly, the guy likes being a player in Cleveland. He signed extensions. Mm-hmm. He wants to stay here in a perfect world, but they haven't put enough talent around him. I mean, he gets double teamed more than any player in the league consistently. And so I don't blame him for being frustrated. I'm not saying he's perfect. He makes some mistakes, sure, the way he handles things sometimes. I think there's some truth to that. And there are some times where it comes off a little bit about me and not the team. And that can rub people the wrong way. It doesn't with me, but I get it. But ultimately, I mean, he's the guy's a Hall of Famer. And,
for sure, a Hall of Famer.
And you want to win.
No one's questioning that.
The people, Mary or somebody asked about, because he broke Lawrence Taylor's record of the youngest player to get 100 sacks, and he said, "Well, yeah, but people remember Lawrence Taylor because they won." And there is some truth to that. Not that if the Giants had never won, you wouldn't know Lawrence Taylor, but he gets another level of credit. Like, we think because the Rams won a Super Bowl with what do you call it?
Stafford?
God. No, the defensive tackle. I just forgot his name.
Oh, the kid from Donald.
Aaron Donald. His name just went right out of my head. Getting old. I just feel like when you win a Super Bowl, and like Aaron Donald in that case made the big play. Remember, he sacks Burrow. He doesn't get there. The Bengals probably win the Super Bowl. So you make those plays on the biggest stage, and that separates you from the other all-time greats. And I think he wants those moments. And maybe he shouldn't have said it. I don't know, but he was asked, and I'm not. So I got no problem with it.
I guess, to be fair, I didn't hear the full context like before and after, so I don't want to kill the guy. I guess I want him, because he's our best player. I want our best player to be to be a great leader and to be bought into what they're doing. And you know what? Maybe it's telling that the organization's not going in the right direction. Maybe Myles is way ahead of this thing, and he's like, maybe he sees the train, the car stopped in the tracks and the train coming down the road. He's like, man, I see this a mile away. He's like, there's no chance I'm not sitting in that car again.
Right. And again, it wasn't like this was unprovoked.
He was asked about it.
Out of the blue. He was asked about it. So
look, I'm not killing a guy. It just stinks that, this could be your second Hall of Fame player you've had in the last decade that will never win anything in Cleveland.
I mean, think about it. You've had your two best players in the modern history of the franchise since '99. Joe Thomas never won a single playoff game, never played in a playoff game. And Myles Garrett's played in 3 and won 1. And that's a shame. And it's because the Browns have made a lot of mistakes.
And arguably your third best player in that time period is a kicker.
Yeah, or Nick Chubb. I'd say Nick Chubb. But
Nick Chubb. Yeah.
And then the kicker.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I'm saying, like
guys 4 and Chubb, 5 are the kicker and the punt and the returner and Josh Cribbs.
I was going to bring up Cribbs too. Yeah, a Pro Bowl special teamer. It's like, dude, we just cannot catch a break in Cleveland, man.
Yeah. And those guys never won a playoff game either here.
Yeah. What helmet is that behind you, by the way? Is that Rocky River?
No, it's the Bet Rivers. My Bet Rivers helmet.
It's Bet Rivers. Okay, I saw a yellow helmet. I'm like, what is that? It's not a local team. Okay, Bet Rivers.
No.
Cool. Well, they can send me one too if they want.
Yeah, send it. Let's go. Let's get it done.
I got my my Heisman one here.
There you go. It'd be the same size as that one. So yeah, we'll get you one.
Cool.
But no, Rocky River is. I think our colors are like purple. I can't even remember now off the top of my head. It's not coming to me.
Rocky River's maroon, I thought.
Yeah, right. Maroon. Purple, maroon. Is there really much of a difference?
I know that. I don't live there. You live there.
I just couldn't think of it. It wasn't coming to me.
What number did AJ Green wear for the Bengals?
18.
I know because you have the jersey. Because you have the jersey.
But you know me. I don't know numbers. I mean, that's not old news. All right, here's some comments from the fans. Zach says, happy holidays, boys. Hope for your families have a safe and happy holiday.
Happy holidays, my friend.
Same to you, Zach. Grass and Bass Stefanski, after 5 years, finally admitted it was his fault. We lost in presser yesterday. It's admirable. Oh, he admitted it was his fault. Okay. And he says, we owe Myles a trade. He deserves it. In terms of a trade, the Browns are in a terrible position right now. They haven't had any
I saw that. I saw the cap space thing. I mean, obviously, it's a bigger hit if they trade him.
Yeah, right. But it may be ultimately. So Jason Lloyd essentially has a theory. You know how Jimmy Haslam's been obsessed with the Manning family. He's obsessed with Peyton. You know that, right?
Yeah, pretty much anything Tennessee.
Yeah. So Jason's theory is that they are trying to get as much draft capital as possible to draft Arch Manning in 2026, and then maybe as part of that have Peyton Manning join the team. I'm thinking we already saw the Manning family tell the Chargers, no, we're not letting Eli go to you. Are they going to let Arch Manning come to the Browns, or would they stop it? Because they have the power to stop it.
I have no idea, but I just know that every time these things that are these pipe dreams about, the Haslams trying to get, I mean, whatever it may be. I mean, it was kind of a pipe dream with Lerner, with Holmgren. I mean, you're trying to find somebody who's got this name cachet, and at the end of the day, it doesn't work. Like Michael Jordan wasn't a good owner. Just because you're a great player or the game doesn't mean you're going to be great at running an organization.
It's true.
You know what I mean? And so will Peyton Manning be, or whatever, a good president? I'd probably bet Peyton will be great at whatever he does because that's just kind of who he is. But I don't even know why would he come to Cleveland?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Dude, this job, being a front office, whether it's a president, CEO, a GM, you don't have a life.
Oh, yeah.
Peyton Manning doesn't need money unless he really just loves football and wants to be in and around the game every single day, grinding his D off.
Yeah.
Like that's not a great lifestyle.
I don't. It doesn't make much sense. He's like I get John Elway did it, but John Elway wasn't the personality that Peyton Manning is. He's a funny dude. He gets to do his broadcast with his brother. It's not a huge time commitment, and he's good at it. Like he's funny on those
Yeah.
things. So like I don't know why he would give that up. And I think if he had this great desire to be a GM or run a team, I think he'd do it already. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it doesn't seem to make much sense to me. Now, maybe drafting Arch Manning makes sense. We'll find out, but that's 2 years. I mean, right now, there's very little hope and that's why they might ultimately trade Myles Garrett because you're finally going to have first round picks the next couple of years. You trade Myles Garrett, you're going to get 2 first round picks, I would think, at least. Some team will give you 2 first round picks and more. Myles Garrett on the trade market is as valuable as most non quarterbacks. I mean, he's he's not young, but he's definitely not old.
You think you're for sure getting 2 first round picks for him?
I bet. I mean, look at some of the other pass rushers that have been traded in recent years. Some of the really good ones, and Myles Garrett's better than those guys, and he's younger than some of them were.
Yeah.
So I think you would get 2. Yeah, Myles Garrett's still in his prime. There's no reason he couldn't be great for another 5 years. We've seen some good pass rushers be good into their early or even mid-30s.
Oh, yeah.
And he's obviously a freak athlete. I mean, he's had some injuries. That's really the only thing, but we'll see. But I would think, and then you have the capital to maybe trade up in the 2026 draft if, but that's a long way away. Who knows? It always changes how good the quarterback class is. You think now, looking at the 26 class, maybe it's going to be good. I don't know. Right now, they have the 4th pick in the draft. I know Tankathon has them at the 5th pick. Technically, they have the 4th pick because they have a lower strength of schedule than the Titans. But if the Titans and Browns both lose out, the Titans will hop them. But the Browns, I mean, I think they're going to lose their last 2. So they got a chance to, end up with a top 5 pick.
So, man, I honestly, do you know my thoughts? Have I said this to you before? I feel like I did on the show. Maybe I need to remind you what my take is. But I think the Browns need to this offseason not have a complete rebuild, not a tear down, because I think that they're too far along. I think in the advancement of the roster and what they're trying to do, that I think you need another solid piece on the defensive line, and we got to find a left tackle. You know what I mean?
You would not trade Myles Garrett. You would not trade Myles Garrett.
I mean, I consider it. I consider it. And when I say another piece, I mean like, another piece outside of Myles, whether he's here or not, because we got to beef up our lines. That's where the game, to me, it's so apparent that the games have been won and lost this year, especially in the trenches. Our quarterbacks have not been able to stay upright. We haven't been able to block quite like we did in the past for the running game. And then the pass rush has just not been consistent enough to allow our guys to get home. Yeah, Myles is putting up some good numbers, but at the end of the day, offenses are putting up ridiculous video game like numbers against our secondary, and our secondary's not played well, but I think it's kind of goes hand in hand to some degree. You've got to have good players in the back end, and then you also have to have a good pass rush. It's like I don't know that we have a nice combination. I thought we did, but some of the guys in the back end have been, it appears, too concerned about their moonwalk as opposed to their offhand jam.
Yeah, nobody's playing well outside of Denzel in the secondary. The rest of the secondary's been ass this year. Juan Thornhill's been a bad addition. Grant Delpit, who I really thought was trending up, has been a disappointment this year. Greg Newsome is okay. And Martin Emerson, I mean, what a collapse he's had. He looked like a promising young player, and he's been terrible this season. So, and he doesn't have the speed to keep up with the top guys. So, yeah, I mean, it's a problem. And besides Myles, nobody else is able to get any consistent pressure. And so, yeah, it's a major problem. They got a lot of holes to fill. It doesn't appear they're going to be able to solve quarterback in this draft. If they're picking 4 and 5, we know the quarterbacks are going to go 1, 2. Travis Hunter's probably going to go in the third or whatever. So then what's next? I mean, yeah, is there an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman in this draft that's the next great guy in the trenches? I don't know. But if the Browns traded Myles Garrett, they'd have at least 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years. In theory, you should be able to get a ton of talent that way. The Browns haven't done a particularly good job drafting, though.
Correct. And that's why Andrew Berry probably gets fired, and whatever they decide to do will be based off of what that new GM wants to do. And honestly, maybe the new GM and am I off base by saying Andrew Berry's gone?
I think he should be. I'm not convinced. Dee on the broadcast yesterday said that she spoke to Jimmy Haslam, and he said that they were happy with the coach and the GM. Now, I don't know how you can be that happy right now. And obviously, he could just be saying that now because he doesn't want it to get out. But I definitely don't think it's a sure thing that Berry should get fired. I'm with you. I think he should be, but I don't think that's for certain. But you was in theory, if there's a new GM, what were you going to say?
That GM would probably, in that interview process, have a conversation about what he wants to do with Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest decision.
I mean, like a new GM coming in may not want to ruffle a lot of feathers by getting rid of your best player.
That makes it tricky. I think, obviously the two biggest decisions over the next couple of years for this team is what to do about Myles Garrett and how do you get the quarterback? Because, yes, they got to get better in the trenches. Obviously, that's really important. But until they have a good quarterback, they're not going anywhere. You can't consistently win. You could have one season like you did last year where you win with not great quarterback play, but you can't consistently win in the NFL if you're not getting top quarterback play. You can't.
Right. No, you got to have great quarterback play.
Yeah.
And you got to have skill players to be able to go out there and make some plays. And I feel like the Browns are starting to get that. I do like the way Judy came on at the end of the year.
Yeah, sure. He's legit. I think there's potential with Cedric Tillman. Obviously, Njoku's solid. They got to fix the running back room. They've got to get another, legitimate starting wide receiver to pair with Judy. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think, and the offensive line. I mean, Bitonio's getting old.
Yeah,
Posick wasn't as good this year.
Posick, you got Bitonio, Conklin, like all those guys who've been steadfast up front. Those guys are getting old.
Right. Yeah, it makes it tricky. All right, let's get a few more comments before we wrap up. Time Warrior, this disaster's been going on since '99. The Hindenburg has a better chance to rebuild. Jeez. George Devaney, you're crazy if you think we wouldn't get 2 firsts for Myles. Every team on the NFL would jump on that. We'll get 3. Nah, they won't get 3. You're not getting 3, but you're getting 2. You might get 2 and something else. See, but if I'm the Browns, I don't want to trade. To me, I think, okay, if I'm the Lions, I'm going after Myles Garrett because I could pair Hutchinson and Myles Garrett and then forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm the Browns, I'd rather trade him to a team that could be middle of the road. Because a bad team's not going to trade for Myles Garrett. They're not giving up high first-round picks because they're not ready to win, and he wouldn't want to go there. But I would think a team like the Cowboys, that's kind of, obviously they're not very good this year. I think the Cowboys, especially Myles Garrett's from Texas, I bet they'd give up a lot to get him. Can you imagine you have those two together in Dallas?
Yeah.
With Dak healthy next year, who knows? But let's see. Grass and Bam.
Cooper Rush looks pretty damn good down there. He
did a nice job yesterday.
Jerry's
Baker has
nice.
Lost his control of the playoffs right now. They do not control their own destiny. The Bucks.
Maybe if what's his face Sterling Shepard could catch a pass.
Yeah, that was bad.
Man, there was a couple of big drops last night.
Yep. Yeah, he didn't play bad, but not good enough.
I think it was okay in that game last night.
Yeah. Dave says I would trade Ward. Would you trade Ward?
Yeah, I'd take my Buckeye glasses off and say I think it's an option.
Right.
I think, Adam, everything's got to be on the table with this team.
Oh, yeah. Nobody.
And the thing about it that sucks is there's no sure things and there's no quick fixes. We thought the quick fix was going to be getting Deshaun Watson, and that has certainly panned out to be not the case.
Yeah.
And then here we are. And like what Myles is saying is I don't want to be here for another 4 to 5 year rebuild because at that point in time, I'm going to be 34.
Right. Yeah. No, right, exactly. He doesn't. That's right. That's why he doesn't want to do it, and I don't blame him. By the way, Baker now 15 interceptions, tied for second in the league with Geno.
And how many
Geno's
tutties? 32? 30 or 34?
34, which is really good. By the way, last year
Yeah.
I think there were only, I want to say 2 or 3 guys that had 30 touchdowns. You got Burrow's got 39, Lamar's got 37, Baker 34, Goff 33, and Darnold 32. Those guys are all fairly young. Goff's the oldest of that group, and he just turned 30 this season. But Baker too. You see, that's the problem ultimately with Baker. Well, I don't trust him in the big spots. He's overall had a very good year, but you can't throw that many picks. I mean, he could end up with 18, 20 picks this year. That's just it's too many. And like even when a Josh Allen throws picks, and obviously this year he hasn't thrown picks really. But like at least he or Lamar, they make it up with their legs because they do so much with their legs. I don't know. I know I've been hard on Baker, and he's having.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because like my house this is a Josh Allen house.
Right.
Here.
Yeah.
How good is he?
Yeah, the guy's phenomenal.
I mean, he's having a year unlike. I mean, obviously Mahomes has been doing some stupid stuff for the last decade, 5 to 10 years, right? But like what Allen's doing with his legs too.
Yeah.
It's just insane. He is a unicorn. They got to be the favorite to win it all right now.
Well, their defense is playing pretty poorly, so it's hard to bet against the Chiefs when in the playoffs. But
dude, even watching that Texans game on Saturday,
yeah,
I'm like looking at the screen. It says 13-1 under the Chiefs' record, and I'm like, how the hell is this team 13-1? And I thought they would. Honestly, when I was watching the Texans game, I'm like, Texans are going to win this game.
All right, let me give you
somehow the Chiefs win by double digits.
It's unreal. Yeah. All right, here's the I got the futures odds at Bet Rivers at the sports book. Here are the odds of winning the Super Bowl. It's pretty close between the top 3 especially. The Chiefs are plus 425. The Lions are plus 450. The Bills are plus 475. Then the Eagles at plus 600. The Ravens at plus 700. Those are the top 5 in the odds. So really between the Chiefs, Lions, and Bills, it's really close. I mean, plus 425, plus 450, and plus 475. So the Bills are the third choice, second choice in the AFC, and they're probably going to have to win in Kansas City. Although the Bills will have the tiebreaker, so if they do end up finished, but the only way they'll end up tied is if the Chiefs lose 2, and I can't imagine. Right? Because don't the Chiefs have 2 more wins? Hold on, did I get that wrong? Let's see. Bills are 12-3. Chiefs are 14-1. Yeah, Chiefs would have to lose their last 2. That's highly unlikely that they'll lose. Who are the Chiefs playing this week? They're at the Steelers and then at the Broncos. So I guess it's possible they could lose their last 2. But not overly likely. Yeah, there you see the odds right there. So I think the Bills got as good a chance as anybody. I think to me, I know Mahomes is not having as great a year as he normally does. But to me, there's 4 guys on the tier 1 of quarterbacks in the NFL, and that's Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, and Burrow. To me, there's a clear line after those 4 guys. You agree, disagree? You take one of those guys out? What do you say?
No, I think you're right. I think you're right on.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Right now, Josh Allen's playing. Although Lamar Jackson's having a magnificent season too.
He's having an MVP type of year.
Yeah.
What's that team without Lamar Jackson? Are they 500? No, they're below 500.
No, not the Bills, Bengals, and the Bengals are under 500 at the moment. But the Bengals are the 4-win team without Joe Burrow, I think.
Oh yeah.
Same with the other guys. Now, what's interesting is I actually think Lamar has more talent around him on offense than he's ever had in Baltimore. right? Because you now have Zay Flowers, who's really good. Rashad Bateman is finally developed. Now, Mark Andrews isn't the player he once was, but he's still
Likely
good.
a nice number 2 tight end.
And he's got Derrick Henry, who's way better than any running back he's ever had. I mean, Derrick Henry's just ridiculous.
Who's the kid who went down? Who's the other running back that went down in this game?
Justice. No, not Justice.
Justice Hill, right?
Is that who it is?
I think so. 43.
I can't remember. No, he was. No, I don't think it's Justice Hill. Somebody. I'm gonna look it up. I can't remember. He was their third down back, and he was pretty good. Yeah, it was Justice Hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And he was a good number 2 back. They had that kid they drafted last year. What happened to him? He's been hurt. I don't think he's played.
Running back?
Yeah, he was really fast. He looked good last year, and then he got hurt.
Oh, the kid from East Carolina. Right. Not right. I did a bunch of his games, dude. Mitchell.
And he looked awesome last year, and then he got hurt. And I thought he was supposed to be back, but I don't think he's played. I don't know.
Bad knee injury, man.
Yeah. But yeah, Zay Flowers has become a star.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's by far the best receiver that Lamar has had, and but kudos to Allen because on paper their wide receiving core looked really like nothing coming into the season.
Help me out real quick. Do you have the ability to, in your mind, or at least with what you're looking at, predict what is going to, the playoffs, for example, who the Bills going to play? The Bills are going to bye, right?
So no, because only the 1 seed gets a bye. Remember now that the 7 teams that make the playoffs.
So they're still battling here.
Yeah.
No, so the Chiefs lock up the number 1 seed.
They have not, but they only need one more win to do it. So the only way the Bills get the number 1 seed is if they win their last 2 and the Chiefs lose their last 2.
Okay.
Which is not, obviously them winning their last 2 is reasonable, but the Chiefs losing 2 games is not likely. So the Bills will probably, I don't know if they've locked up the 2 spot. They're 2 games ahead of Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
Probably be the 2 seed. So then they'll play what? The Broncos?
As of now, it's the Broncos. I know maybe this is a little bias on my part. They want no part of the Bengals grabbing that 7 seed.
No part.
They want to play the Broncos or the Chargers or whatever. And
the Colts have a chance there too, or no?
Colts, the Dolphins,
Bengals.
Colts, Dolphins, Bengals, Broncos,
Chargers
all have a chance to be at 7 seed. No chance that the last team they want to play is the Bengals. I mean, they'd really like it to be I'm sure they'd want it to be the Dolphins or the Colts. I mean, they'd smoke those teams probably. Denver's still a rookie quarterback.
Chargers are locked up. They're not. Chargers are not going to lose. They have 2 games left. They have 1 against the Patriots, 1 against the Raiders. They're winning one of those games.
Right. So they're gonna probably be, the 5 seed or the 6 seed. The Broncos have the Bengals this week and the Chiefs next week. So I don't know. They could definitely lose their last 2.
Chiefs may not play anybody.
That's right. Well, what I'm hoping that I actually got a root for the Steelers to beat the Chiefs this week, because if the Steelers beat the Chiefs, then the Chiefs will have to play for that number 1 seed the last week. So that's what I want to happen. So they have to play against the Broncos. I don't think the Steelers are going to beat the Chiefs, but they certainly could. I wouldn't put anything past Mike Tomlin.
Steelers can beat anybody. That was a weird game. That Ravens game they could have won. Dude, they had it was a tie game, 17-17, then all of a sudden 2 turnovers happened in 5 plays.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, the Steelers have had the Ravens number. The Ravens would do to beat them. And so that's what happened. All right, Dustin, I'll see you tomorrow on UCSS, right? You're working tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be tomorrow.
Okay, folks, this is the last Bull and Fox podcast of the year and my last podcast period for the year. We'll be back right after the new year on January 2nd. Until then, everybody have a great Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. Thanks to Chris for filling in, producing, and Alex as well. We'll talk to you next time. Where else? But right here with Bull and Fox in the bullpen. We'll see you next time. Bet Rivers.
Merry Christmas.